Did you know? When the British first arrived in India, the subcontinent controlled nearly a quarter of the world's economy. But when they finally left, that number had dropped to less than 2%. How did the richest civilization on Earth, the land of gold, spices, and empires, become one of the most exploited nations in history? Stay tuned, because today, we uncover the dark truth behind the jewel in the crown and the curse it carried. But before we dive into this untold story of power, greed, and resistance, make sure to subscribe to Dusk and Times, because here we uncover the mysteries that history tried to hide. It all began with a ship. In 1600, Queen Elizabeth I granted a royal charter to a trading company, the East India Company. At first it sounded harmless, a few merchants, a few spices, some silk. But soon trade turned into control, and merchants became kings. By 1700, India was the beating heart of global trade, rich with textiles, jewels, and spices. The Mughal Empire still ruled, but cracks had begun to appear. And the British saw their opportunity. They didn't invade with armies, not yet. They came with contracts, clever deals, and promises of protection. And one by one, Indian rulers signed their kingdoms away. But this was only the beginning. The East India Company, a corporation, became the ruler of millions. Imagine that. Not a king, not a nation, but a company owning an entire subcontinent. After the Battle of Plassey in 1757, the British took Bengal, the richest province of India. They didn't just win a battle, they won the right to tax the people. And with that, the slow drain began. Bengal's weavers, once world famous for their silk and muslin, were forced to sell only to the company, and at unfair prices. Those who refused were punished. Some had their thumbs cut off so they could never weave again. Famine followed. Between 1770 and 1773, millions died, while British traders shipped food overseas for profit. It was more than conquest. It was economic strangulation. By the 1800s, the British Crown had taken direct control. They called India the jewel in the crown of the British Empire. And indeed it glittered, for them. They built railways, telegraphs, grand buildings, but not for the Indian people. The railways weren't meant to connect Indians, they were built to move raw materials from the heart of the country to the ports. Cotton, tea, spices, coal, all exported to fuel Britain's growing industries. And what did India get in return? Finished goods, sold back at higher prices. India's industries collapsed. Its farmers were trapped in debt. And millions worked under foreign masters on their own land. But under the surface, something was changing. The fire of resistance was about to rise. It began in 1857, the Sepoy Rebellion, or the First War of Independence. It started with rumors that rifle cartridges were greased with cow and pig fat, offensive to both Hindu and Muslim soldiers. But it wasn't just about cartridges. It was about humiliation, exploitation, and anger that had been building for a century. Indian soldiers turned against their British officers. For a brief moment, the empire trembled. But the rebellion was brutally crushed. Thousands were executed. Entire villages burned. The British called it mutiny. Indians called it the beginning of the freedom struggle. After that, the British Crown dissolved the East India Company. But control didn't end. It simply changed hands, from company to empire. And the Crown ruled with an iron fist. The British claimed they were modernizing India, building schools, introducing the English language, railways, and a better system. But behind the polished words was a darker plan. Education was limited to a small elite, people who would serve the empire, not question it. Famines became more frequent as cash crops like cotton replaced food crops. In some regions, tens of millions died. One British official even said, "Indians are dying, but that means there are fewer mouths to feed." The exploitation was masked as progress. Every reform benefited Britain more than India. By the early 1900s, the so-called modernization had drained the country dry. India's share of the world's GDP, once 24%, had fallen to less than 4%. But out of that darkness, a new light began to flicker. The call for freedom. Across the land, voices began to rise. From farmers to poets, lawyers to monks, a nation was awakening. Then came Mahatma Gandhi. A man with no army, no weapons, but a revolutionary idea. Nonviolent resistance. Salt marches. Boycotts. Hunger strikes. He turned protest into power. For decades, Indians fought with courage, unity, and spirit. And finally, in 1947, after nearly 200 years of foreign rule, India was free. The Union Jack came down. The tricolor rose. But independence came with a heavy cost. Partition. Millions displaced. Countless lives lost. Freedom was won, but the scars of colonization remained. The British left behind railways, schools, courts, but also poverty, division, and pain that still lingers. Yet, from those ashes, India rebuilt. Today, it's one of the world's fastest-growing economies. A nation reborn, carrying both the memory of oppression and the pride of resilience. The colonization of India was not just a story of conquest. It was a lesson of how greed can destroy and how the human spirit can rise again. So, was India truly the jewel in the crown? Or was it a cursed treasure, shining on the outside but built on suffering within? In the next episode of Dusk and Times, we'll uncover another hidden story: the British and the Industrial Revolution, machines that changed the world. You don't want to miss it. If you learned something new today, like, share, and subscribe to Dusk and Times, where history's deepest secrets come alive. Until next time, keep watching, keep wondering, and never stop questioning the stories you were told.